Welcome everyone to NAB 2024. I'm your host at the Maxon booth. That's right, round of applause is fine. You can get excited. That's right, we're at capacity crowd here at the Maxon booth. We are showcasing Maxon 1 as well as our workflow in the creative ecosystem. And one person that is amazing at this is to my left. He's known by two words. I'll let him kick it off with those famous two words. But let's give a big round of applause for Jonathan Winbush.
All right, check, check, 1, 2, 1, 2. What up, what up? How y'all doing? How's everybody doing today? Kicking off NAB right, yeah? Y'all good? I mean, y'all gotta give me more energy than that, come on. All right, so happy to be here once again with Maxon. Appreciate you guys bringing me out. My name is Jonathan Winbush. For those that don't know who I am, I'm a multi-award-winning motion graphics artist based out of Southern California. A couple of my career highlights, won multiple awards around the world, including the BAFTA, Telly, Pro Max, a couple of Cannes Festival Awards, worked with Hype Madison, Marvel, DC, Warner Brothers, Netflix, NFL, amongst just a few companies I worked with. And then also got the Epic MegaGrant, if you guys are familiar with that. Epic Games gives out grants for different projects, and then also got the YouTube grant for my YouTube channel and doing educational content on there. And then one of the biggest things I think to my career to date, got the co-headline the Design and Animation World Tour with Matthias, Chris Schmidt, EJ, the guys at MegaGrant, Matt and Dave. So that was a ton of fun. We did North America, Canada, Europe. EJ and I went to Seoul, Korea. So a lot of cool stuff going on in the career of Winbush. But nobody knows me for the work I do. Everybody knows me for my YouTube channel here, in which I do weekly tutorials covering everything that I use professionally when working on client work. So a lot of Unreal Engine, a lot of Cinema 4D, some After Effects, some motion capture stuff in there. So anything that I'm using in my day-to-day workflow, that's what I'm teaching up there on YouTube as well. And so right now, I'm going to kick it off with a demo reel of some of the work that I've worked on over the past 17 years of my career, and then we'll jump into what I'm going to be presenting on today. So let me get this geared up.
Jonathan Winbush and all of our Pittsburgh family, we want to give a big shout out, congratulations for all the awards, for all the great things you've been doing, for all the stuff you've been hooking us up with for so long. Y'all, you make every show with your images fly like a G6. So, yep, Far East Movement, congratulations once again. 3 fingers up for you, homie.
Yo, Yins is talented.
Six, like a G6, like a G6. Now I'm feeling so fly, like a G6, like a G6, like a G6. Now I'm feeling so fly, like a G6.
Give me that mo wet, give me that crystal style. Ladies love my style. At my table getting wild. Get them bottles poppin'. We get that drippin', that drop out. Now give me 2 more bottles, cause you know it don't stop. Hell yeah, drink it up, drink it up. Sober girls around me, they be acting like they drunk. They be acting like they drunk, acting like they drunk. With sober girls around me, they be acting like they drunk.
Bottles in the ice, like a blizzard. When we drink, we do it right. Getting slizzard, sipping scissor. Am I right? Like 3-6. Now I'm feeling so fly, like a G6.
Thank you. Yeah. So that was some of the projects I worked on in my career the past 17 years. Like I said, everything, Cinema 4D, After Effects, Unreal Engine, everything you saw in there, I used stuff that I teach on YouTube right in my workflow. So what I'm going to be talking about today is Fortnite. But before I show that, I wanted to show that even though I do a lot of motion graphics, I do immersive tech there as well. Been doing it since 2016. So in the upper left-hand corner, that's actually me developing this VR app inside of Unity. So like I stay agnostic as possible. I use a lot of different platforms. I went on to work with Candy Crush, Mark Christopher Lawrence, Fox News, went to Cannes Film Festival with Mixmaster Mike there with 2 VR projects. And so a lot of people ask me, why now move over to Fortnite? And same thing, it's an immersive experience, but like we all know 3D, right? Like I assume most people here know Cinema 4D or even know some form of 3D. And so we could use 3D for more than just motion graphics. We can actually use it in immersive experiences that's shown in the past. And then also more recently, Epic Games has opened up Fortnite to creators like us. So it doesn't have to be a shooter. We can make driving games, we can make Lego games, we can make museums, like anything that you want to do, you can put it inside of Fortnite and you can do it with building your scenes out in Cinema 4D and then bring it into Fortnite. And from there, you have a whole plethora of an audience that you can actually reach out to. So down there in the lower right-hand corner, at any given time, there's 4 million people playing Fortnite at that individual time. So that means if you build an experience, then you have the opportunity to have your experience seen by 4 million players. Sometimes it's even more. Like last month, it actually hit 11 million players. And then a couple of weeks ago when Eminem did his concert, it peaked at 40 million players all playing inside of Fortnite at once. So like if you have your experience on there, you're actually taking it to the audience. And if that's not incentive enough, over on the left-hand side during GDC, Epic put out the top 40 creators. The top one made $20 million with his maps alone. Number 40 made $1 million. Not saying everybody's going to get rich, but there is some money that you could be made there. So for me, what I'm going to be showing today is the battle for New York City. So I've been working with Method Man from the Wu-Tang Clan for a couple of years now. We first started off working with a comic book experience there. We did some motion comics, as you can see there in the top right, which that was all done in Cinema 4D. And then also we were thinking, once they opened up Fortnite, how do we translate all the 3D stuff that we're doing for the motion comics and bring it into an interactive experience? And so that's what I'm going to be showing you guys today. So I'm going to be flip-flopping it back and forth. I'm going to be showing you guys some gameplay. No one's really seen this before, so this is a debut. It's not finished yet, but it's in a good place. And so as I'm playing through the games, I'm going to be dropping over to Cinema 4D and showing you guys how I'm building out the assets and then bringing them into Fortnite to make an interactive experience. And the cool thing about it is I'm not even a game developer. Like this experience was made with absolutely no programming at all. So I'm just a 3D artist. I'm building out these assets. I'm using animations and sequencers and a lot of stuff that was prefab built inside of Fortnite here. So let me get started with this experience here. Hopefully this plays through. I'm running off the internet here. So as you can see right now, like this character is my Fortnite character. It's actually a Wu-Tang character that was sold there on the marketplace. And so each Fortnite character is actually a skin bought from the players. So you could kind of say it's like the metaverse, right? Like the individual players, they buy their skins. They're all from like a ton of different IPs like Futurama, Wu-Tang. They have Avatar, The Last Airbender in there right now. And so as I'm scrolling through here, like this bus right here, this bus stop, this is actually an asset from Cinema 4D. And I'm actually going to show you guys how we could use some stuff in that asset marketplace and bring it over. But as I'm moving over here to my left, we can see we have a collectible comic book. So this is one of the comic books that we built with Method Man called the Meth, and we made this a collectible item within the game there. So if I jump over on it, you can see score 1. And now if you collect 10 comic books, that's going to open up a secret area inside the video game. But before I move on further into the game, I actually want to show you guys, and females out there, how I actually created that collectible that we have spinning there. So let me jump over to Cinema 4D. And with Cinema 4D open, what a lot of people don't realize is over here in the top left-hand corner, we actually have an asset browser. Like I know Chris goes a lot into the asset browser. Like, are you guys familiar with the asset browser at all? So you know there's a lot of like 3D models, there's a lot of textures, HDRs, a lot of cool stuff that's in here that we can actually use in our projects. So what I did was, if you come in here and you type in magazine, we have a whole plethora of different items down here. And since I wanted to have a spinning comic book, I figured what better than just to use a magazine that was in here and just customize it to how I wanted to make it. So I'm going to double click on this and bring this into my viewport. And then we have the magazine here inside of our objects panel. Now, I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to bring in a figure. This figure is about 6 feet tall because you want to work in real world scale. So a lot of times, a lot of people, when they're working with their assets or even doing rendering and it's not coming out realistic the way they want it to be, that's because they're usually working at scales that are too big or too small. So no matter what type of project I'm working on, I always bring this figure in here, and then I start modeling or just start creating the world around this figure to make sure everything is going to be absolute. So with that in there, I know that I want my collectible to be a little bit bigger. I'm not going for a photo, I'm not going for actual realism here. So I'm going to come down here in the coordinates, and I'm going to make this scale 10 by 10 by 10. Then I'm just going to rotate this up. So do it this way. Rotate this up by 90. Actually, that went to 35. Why is this not working? I hit the number lock. All right, cool. So there we go. So now we have it upright instead of our viewport there. And the cool thing is too, if you come up to extensions, you could Google this. There's a cool plugin called Drop to Floor. And the plugin basically just does that. So if I left click on this, it just drops it to the floor. So you could Google that. That's absolutely free there on the internet. You just have to sign up for the marketplace there, or their, what's it called? The newsletter there to get that. But moving on here. So once we're inside of our objects panel, I'm going to actually swap out this artwork right here with the artwork that we had created in 2D. So first I'm going to come over here to cover. I'm going to hit C. And then down here under main page, I'm going to drag this underneath here. And then I'm going to hold down the O key, left click twice, because I'm going to get rid of the middle pages there, because I'm only worried about what's going to be here on the front. Now, if I scroll this over here to the left a little bit, let me see if I can scroll this over. There we go. We can see that we have two tags here. We have for the page inside and the page outside. Then if I also come over here to materials, you can see that with that asset that's inside of Cinema, everything is already set up for us for our UVs. Because when you're working in game engines, UVs are really important. Like I know a lot of people like using like Cubic and stuff like that. If you come down here, projection, they just try to make it work. And that's going to work when you're rendering. But if you're working in type of like interactive experience, you want to make sure that you have your UVW mapping concise, because once you bring it into your application, whether it's Unreal, Unity, Lumberjack, anything of that nature, it's going to come in mixed up if your UVs aren't right. So fortunate enough, this UV is already set up here, and we just have to swap out these materials here. So what I'm going to do is actually come over here to this plus symbol, come down here to standard material, because we're using UEFN, that's Unreal Engine for Fortnite. So it's a little bit different than your traditional Unreal Engine. Excuse me. So we're not going to be able to bring redshift materials. We just have to bring basic PBR materials in for right now. So I'm going to double click on this. And then right here under color, I'm just going to click and drag my, actually, no, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to come to cover. Sorry about that. Because we want to replace this cover right here. And what I'm going to do is actually select this right here, and I'm going to click on Edit Image, because over in our outliner, and not outliner, that's in Unreal, inside of our asset browser, down here, you can see that we have the magazine cover that correlates with our object right here. So I'm going to double click on this, and this is going to pop up here inside of our render view, and we're just going to save this out as a JPEG, because inside of Photoshop, then I'm going to replace this artwork with my magazine cover, on my comic book cover, and then we're going to reapply that back in here. So I'm just going to leave this on my desktop, leave the name here at default, just click on save. And now instead of Photoshop, I'm going to go back to my desktop, select this, come down here to magazine cover, bring it down here instead of Photoshop. And now what I'm going to do is take that method main cover that we had created before and just really make it engulf our scene here. So again, I'm going to go back to my desktop, look for where I have my images right here. There we go, the MEF cover. I'm going to drag this down here, hold down Shift, left click, drag it in here. And now if I hold down Control and hit 0, that's going to make it large enough that we can see this entire texture here. And if I hold down the Alt key, select up here in the left-hand corner and drag it down, it's going to move it down here in unison instead of our layer here. So I'm just going to eyeball it for right now, and I'm just going to move this one over to the left. And then I'm going to stretch it just a little bit because the size that we made the cover doesn't exactly match up with this right here, but you really can't tell once you're inside of the actual game. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key, drag this over to the middle, and then I'm going to hit Control D. Actually, let me hit Enter first. hit Control J to copy it. I'm going to slide this over here. So that's going to be for the front and the back. And I'm going to come up here to File, come down here to Export, and I'm going to do quick export just as a PNG. So I'm going to export this out to my desktop there. I'm just going to leave the name the same. Click on Save. And before I do anything else, I want to make sure my image size is correct, because when you're doing anything inside of Fortnite, it has to be 2K or under, because it's going to be doing pixel streaming. So if you have like 4K or 6K or even 8K assets, those aren't going to correlate well, because you have to think Fortnite runs on phones, Nintendo Switches, Xbox, PCs, anything out there. So your resolution has to be at a decent rate that you'll be able to pixel stream there on the fly. So as long as it's under 2K, we should be good, which we are right here. So now I'm going to go back over to Cinema 4D. And I'm just going to, let me see if I can reapply that texture here. So let me come back here. I'm just going to drag and drop it, this PNG. Left click, drag it right here. I'm going to click on No. No, I did that to the inside cover. Let me do it to the outside cover. Let me see. All right, left click. Let's try that again. Hit No. All right, there we go. So let me move this over like so. So there we go. So that's how I quickly created the comic book that's going to be our collectible inside of the game there. And then from here, you have some inside pages as well, which you can leave this blank, but I actually do have some inside pages over here. So let me come back over here and look for my images, in which we have this one right here. So I'm just going to come over. Let me double click on this. And then I'm going to click and drag this into my texture file right here. Click No. And then I'm just going to replace the inside covers right here with that. So I could do each one of them custom, but since this is spinning around and the player's really not going to notice what's going on, this should be suffice right here. So we have our cover, and then we have some inside art, which is the actual comic book. Now from here, what we're going to do is actually export this out as an FBX, because that's going to be the best way that we can bring it into UEFN. So before I do that, I'm going to come down here into my timeline, hit 0, because we don't need anything else. We just need the geometry to come over. And then I'm going to delete my figure here. And then I'm going to select these two right here. Come over here to File. Come down here to Export. And there where we have FBX, I'm going to click on this gear right here. Now the reason I'm clicking on this is just to make sure that my attributes are going to be what I want. So I want selection only. I don't want any animation, because we don't have any animation there. And we're going to bake our materials down. So since I already have this in the game, I'm not going to save this out, but I wanted to show you guys how we made those collectibles for inside the game. So I'm going to jump back over here inside the game. And we're going to jump back into the gameplay here for a little bit, and let's get this moving. So as you can see right now, I'm moving inside my city. And another fun fact, like these buildings and everything that you're seeing in here, these are actually assets from the marketplace there inside of the asset browser on Unreal or inside of Cinema. But another cool thing is, right here, you can see it says hit X to talk to Winbush. I actually photo scanned myself to bring myself into the game. And not only that, with Rococo, I did the facial motion capture as well with the Rococo helmet. And then I built this out inside of Real Illusion. Like I did a full tutorial on how it actually did this. That's like 2 hours in itself, but that's a fun thing that I'm doing. I'm throwing a lot of people in there. So if anybody wants in the game, you know, hit me up. Maybe we'll get you scanned, put you in there, some background characters or something like that. But moving along, I'm going to fast forward through this a little bit here. And so again, like I'm using my Razer controller right now, and everything is just automatically mapped to my controller. Like I didn't have to program this out or anything of that nature. We have another collectible in here that I just showed you how we built inside of Cinema. And right now, I have it triggered to actually showing some of the comic book that we have in there. We're going to do some VO, get Method Man to do the VO for it and everything. But yeah, I can show you guys more later if you're interested, especially on YouTube. But again, I'm just triggering these events playing through a sequencer. So no programming at all. People like me, people like you, we could just go in there and make these cool experiences. So I'm going to keep running over to the right, and then I'm going to do my first battle. And then we're going to jump back into Cinema because I want to show everybody how I actually built out the cityscape. Oh, snap, I almost got hit by the car. All right, so I want to show everybody how I actually built the cityscape that we're running around in inside of Cinema. So I'm going to keep running over to the right here till we come to our first battle. You see, so we have the robot. Looks like the AI didn't see me at first. But the cool thing too is these weapons in here These are all built inside of Fortnite. So it's as easy as just going through and selecting like what you want the players to start with. And you can just start them off with anything. Like since this is Wu-Tang and they're all about Kung Fu flips, that's why I wanted to do like swords, and we have like grappling hooks there. We have nunchucks, things of that nature. But once we get into the actual gameplay, once we turn to 3D, then we'll start showing some of the like semi-automatics and things of that nature. But let me defeat some of these characters first, so I'm not going to get killed when I jump back into cinema. So let me jump back up here. All right, so I'm going to defeat some of these peeps here first. All right, then I'm going to come down here, make sure I'm in a good spot. Okay, so now that we're in a good spot, I don't think I'm going to be getting hit at all. But if you notice, all these buildings in here and everything, these are actually assets from Cinema 4D that I reconfigured, retextured, and then I brought inside of Fortnite here. So if we jump back over into Cinema 4D, let me actually pull this out. We don't need to save it. We're going to start all over here. So let me move over my texture. And we're going to come back over here inside of the asset browser, and we're just going to look for house, something like this. So I'm going to type in house, and you can see that we have a lot of really cool houses down here inside of our asset browser. So these are everything that I used inside the game there. I didn't model anything out. I just went in here, just started clicking on some random houses. You just download them really quick there. So I'm going to put these in here like so. Let's maybe do like 5 or 6. So we'll do this one here. Then we'll do this house right here. Now, I want to show a slide here for a minute real quick, because like I grew up on side scrollers, right? And that's what I wanted to incorporate inside this game. And so what better person to kind of go through and just study than Miyamoto, the person that made the original Mario Brothers. And so his philosophy was it should be accessible to everybody, and less is more. So the simpler you make it, the better it is for the end user. So if you look up here, this is actually the whole map of the first Mario Brothers game. And you can see how really simple it is. Like you just have a couple of pipes there. You have a lot of these assets that are just repeating. But if you go back to your childhood, like you spent hours and hours just playing this level alone. So this is something that I wanted to replicate when I was making this game, because I felt like Miyamoto's the master. So why not replicate what the masters do? And even same thing down here, like this right here. This is from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game. You can see this right here. I mean, it's just a hallway. You have a couple of doors. Like this level right here alone literally takes 15 minutes to complete, but you can see how simple it is to actually build out. And so I'm using Cinema to actually gray box some levels out like that. And that's why I have these houses in here, because I'm going to come over to the cloner, and we're just going to quickly use the cloner to kind of block his little scene out there. So if I come over here to the cloner and I grab all these houses and I drag them under the cloner, right now you can see they're kind of combobulated, one on top of each other. But if I come over here back into my cloner, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this already, but if you come down here to mode, come down here to linear, now we can actually lay this out in like a linear stack. So I'm going to put this out maybe to like 8 for right now. And on my y-axis, I'm going to bring this down to 0. And then on my z-axis, I'm just going to bring this out really far. Actually, not my z. Let me see if it works better on my X. There we go. So we have the houses facing forward. But if I zoom out here, you can see we have all these houses that we downloaded from the asset browser inside of our cloner here. And this is how I did my general layout when I was building out the city, just trying to really get a grasp for how I wanted the world to look. And this is just a quick and easy way that we can iterate and just go through, because when you're working on a game level, it's not about having it be perfect at first. You just want to go through, lay some stuff out, see if it works, do some gameplay. If it doesn't work, go back in there, try it again. But if I come down here under clones, we could come in and make it randomized. So if we want these houses to randomize inside of here, we could do that as well. And also with the seed, if I just start selecting through here, we're just messing around with the seeds till I find something that I thought would suffice. So let's say like we're happy with this right here, but some of these buildings are actually colliding inside of each other. So a little trick that I do so that we could kind of move these buildings out a little bit more just to space them out. If I come up here to create, build a null, and I'm just going to start, actually before I do that, I'm going to hold down the control, left click, I'm just going to duplicate these nulls in here. And I'm going to bring the houses into the nulls, and then I'm going to bring them back into the cloner. And that way I can move my houses while being inside the cloner, and they're going to move with it. Because if I move the house right now, like if I select it and I start moving it, you can see like the outline is moving. but it's not correlating with what's side of our cloner there at all. So I'm just going to put these under nulls, and that's going to be a way that we can actually go through and fix that. So it will make more sense once we actually get these back in here. So let me scroll these down. I'm going to select all these nulls in here. Come here under cloner. So now we have it back inside of our cloner. So let's say we want to move this house right here. You can see once you have it selected underneath your null, we have it highlighted. And then if I start moving it, now it's moving within our cloner. So that's just a trick if you wanted to kind of move your houses inside your cloner. The only caveat is if you have something that's replicated, like if you click on this null right here and start moving this through. Actually, we're not seeing that one, so let me come over. Let me make more clones here. So let's go crazy, let's go with 20. Now let's see if I select this house. Still not seeing it. All right, let me select a different house in here. There we go. So you can see right there, if you select the house, since it is being replicated, it's going to move all of them in unison. So just keep that in mind. Like if you have a layout that you really like right here, like say like you're happy with this layout, if I come over to the cloner and I hit C, now that's going to collapse everything down even further. And we should be able to go through and start moving them individually, just like that. But the only thing with that is you lose all the flexibility of having a cloner in there. So I would only do that if you're happy with how your layout looks. And since I'm pretty happy with that, like I took this and I bring it into UEFN, but this makes like a really large file. And so you only use this just to get like the general layout if you're seeing there. So if I come inside of Unreal Engine and actually look inside of my scene, you can see how I have my scene blocked out. So we have the buildings in here. And what I did was I brought the buildings in, and then I wanted the flexibility to take these buildings and move them any way that I want. So if you bring them in as one large FBX, it's going to be kind of stuck together. And so I brought these in as individual pieces, and I just kept going back into my sketch here, and just kind of looking and just eyeballing how I had everything laid out here. And then it also gives me flexibility once I bring it back in the Unreal Engine. So again, you want to make sure when you're building these assets out that you actually build them out with the proper UVs. And so what I'm going to do is like I'm going to come down here to my house. Let's say we're going to use this asset right here. And so I actually went through and rebuilt a lot of these assets in here. But if you look right here inside the objects panel, like when you bring it in from the asset, you can see that it's all one complete piece. And that's not going to work whenever we want to do texturing inside of Unreal Engine, because we want to make sure we have our UVs properly set up for each individual item in here. So if I select this, a little trick that we have is if I select this right here, I'm looking at my actual polygons. If I come over here to where I have my, my transform tools and I double click down here, you can see the way that it was built out. You can tell that they built this out separately from the house. And then we also have the fence down here built out too. So if you have your transform tool selected, if you double click on the item, it's going to select that item right there. And we can also separate it as well. So let's say I start off with my porch right here. Then if I right click inside of my scene and I hit on split, you can see that it actually split it over here inside of my objects panel. So if I hold down the Alt key, double click on this, and we have this right here, you can see now we only have the porch on there. And that's an easy way that we could go through and separate some of these items inside of our scene. Now let's say for UV sake, like if I come in here and I'm going to actually make another standard material, let me double click on this. And I'm going to bring in this UV grid just so we can see what the UVs look like on this individual piece. So I have that right there, and I'm going to bring it in, and I'm going to drop it onto the house there. And it looks like that didn't work. So let me come through and do it again. There we go. So you can see once we actually drop the material on there, the UV is really messed up. Like if I look down here underneath my projection, it started it off with spherical, but if I come down here at the UVW mapping, we don't have anything in there at all. And that's because we don't have any UVs set up for this individual item, in which we really need for bringing it over into Unreal Engine. So a little trick that I like to use is if I come right here into projection, left click on this, come over to cubic, you can see that our UVs are looking pretty good with the cubic projection, right? But we don't have a UV tag, so if we brought this over with the projection cubic, it's going to mess up our materials once we're inside of Unreal Engine. It's not going to recognize this projection here. So an easy way we can actually go through and map this onto our steps here. If I come over here and click on my material, right click, come down here under generate UVW coordinates. If I select this down here under projection, you can see that it made it a UVW projection, and that way now, if we bring it into our game engine, everything is going to be lined up just how it should be inside of here. And so I know a lot of people, they like using like Cubic and things of that nature, and once they bring it into Unreal, they're asking, why did their materials look all messed up? And that's exactly why. You have to make sure that you have to have this UV tag in here to let the game engine know that's exactly what we need to have in there. So now that you know how we can actually bring assets in and build out the city here, let me move on into this environment, because there's another piece of this level where we actually morph it into like a 3D type, like behind the scenes shooter, kind of like Gears of War, something of that nature, if you're familiar with that. So I'm going to quickly run through this level here. So I'm going to come through, let's see. We got this guy over here. I don't know what he's doing, but all right. I'm gonna let them fight it out while I crawl down here underneath the sewer. Like I said, big fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so I had to throw a sewer in here. As I'm crawling underneath there, as they're fighting each other, I'm just gonna come over here, mind my own business, as I walk over to the comic book shop. So within a few minutes here, we should come over to the comic book shop, and this is where the real fun's gonna begin. But let me collect this comic book real quick. And you can see, once I collected 10 comic books there that I built inside of Cinema, it triggered an animation cinematic inside of Unreal, and it showed me that I actually unlocked a room. So now that I'm inside this room, you can see that I have it transmorph into a 3D shooter. So if I go back through this door, now it goes back into being a side scroller, which I'm pretty proud of, because again, I don't do any programming, but I was able to figure out how to make that transition work right there. Now, the robots don't see me right now. I'm not sure why, but okay, there we go. I'm going to pull my Miles Morales off, and I'm just going to glide through my scene here. So there we go. Now I collected some Method Man tokens there. That's going to open up this other back room, in which we have a whole plethora of these mugs back here. So before I go fight them, I'm actually going to go back to this other room that I built out that has some machine guns in there. So let me actually... All right, so I'm going to collect these guns. And there we go. So now we have this fighting scene going on in here. We're traversing around the level. Like again, everything that you see in here, I just built out inside of Cinema 4D, just how I've been showing you. So it just shows you how we could take like our skill sets that we already have and just go in here and just make an interactive game in here. So let me go into this room, because I think I have to take off these people over here before the next room opens up that has Method Man inside of it. I think I put it up too high. It might have like 20 people you have to play through. It looks like the counter is not working, so we're just going to have to guesstimate it in here. All right, I put too many people in here. Like I said, playtesting, right? So I have way too many people in here. They took me out, but all right. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to have time to show Method Man's 3D character in there just yet. Let me see. Let me go through one more time. You guys cool if I try to play through it one more time? All right, there we go. So I'm going to come through. Just run through the scene really quickly, just ignoring everybody in here. And then I'm going to show you how I actually made that comic book shop there at the end, again inside of Cinema 4D, because that was really simple to build out. I literally just built out my blueprint there, like my overhead blueprint inside of Illustrator. Then I bring the splines into Cinema 4D, extrude it out, and it was easy as that to build out that comic book shop. But just going to quickly roll through this scene here. Let's see if they're still fighting each other back here. Yeah, they're still fighting each other, so I'm just going to leave them be. Crawling here underneath the sewer. All right, there we go. So we're almost back here to the comic book shop. I have to work on the respawning right now. If you die, it takes you all the way back to the beginning, but the level is not too long that we could run all the way back. So let's see what's going on inside of here. So let's traverse around the scene here. All right, they're still fighting down there, so I'm gonna kamikaze my way in here. All right, so I want to take out these ones right here. And once I take all these ones out, then the next room's gonna open up. Then we're gonna find Method Man inside the room there. So let me keep. All right, yeah, and that's my bad. I should have made it so you didn't have to kill as many people to get it going, but I wanted to make it challenging for the players there on the back end. All right, well, I don't want to make the stream me playing a video game this whole time. Let me see if I could take... all right, I thought I only had to kill 20. If this isn't going to work, then I'm just going to go to Unreal Engine. Show it there. All right, I'm just going to go into Unreal Engine. Show Method Man there. I couldn't get it to go. Thank you, appreciate it. So this is inside of Unreal Engine right now. This is the Fortnite version of Unreal Engine, but if I go through here, let's go through the back room. We're flying through some of the comic book scenes, but this is the room. I'm still working on how to make him an NPC, but let me see if I could take this, move this over a little bit. So funny enough, I actually built this out with Character Creator inside of Real Illusion. So this is the Method Man superhero. We just refashioned him with a new outfit there. He's actually moving around inside the game, but like I said, I couldn't get it to work to where this room opens up to where you go in there. He's going to be fighting alongside you as you go through here, and then this is what's going to end the game right there. But let me end this, and then I'm going to show you how I actually built out this comic book shop there, because this is really easy. If you look up here, this is how big that level is, and so this is just a battle arena where you're fighting all the characters and everything. And if I come back over here to my slide, yeah, this is a rudimentary sketch I did. I'm not much of an artist, but I try my best, right? But that's how I wanted my level to look out. I had the idea in my head, just wanted to sketch it out. But when I was building out the comic book shop, I actually Googled floor plans for comic book shops because I wanted to be as authentic as possible. And so as you look up here, you can see that there's no like one way a comic book shop is laid out. Like most of them are like mom and pop shops, right? And so I just kind of took influence from a lot of these comic book shops here, and then I went through and I actually made out my own. So if I come inside of this right here, I built this out inside of Illustrator. I'm not sure if it's showing too well on there, but I just took a basic comic book shop floor plan layout. I made it as simple as possible because, again, going back to Miyamoto, less is more. But once you're inside that room and you have the comic book stands and everything all built out in there, this quickly fills up. And I wanted to make it feel really large, not like a life-size comic book shop. Like I wanted to make it feel larger than life. And so this floor plan I built out inside of Illustrator, just with a couple of splines there. Then if I come back inside of Cinema 4D, I'm going to take these out. I'm going to take this Illustrator floor plan that I built. I'm going to left click, drag it inside of my viewport. And from here, I'm just going to click on OK. And if I click on my vector right here, and I come over here to objects, if I come down here to hierarchy, select this down like this. I think we have too many splines in here, so this clipping path. If I turn this off, now you can see I have my floor plan here inside of Cinema 4D. So I'm actually going to delete that right there. I'm going to take this fill, I'm going to drag this out, and we're just going to quickly create this comic book shop in 3D so that we can bring it inside of Unreal Engine. So let me come over here to coordinates. I'm going to zero everything out. Let me scroll this down here like so. So around 270, something like that. And again, we want to bring a life-size character in here just for reference, so we can see that spline is way too small for what a character will actually be inside of our scene here, because again, this character is around 6 foot, so we want to make sure that this arena is going to be large enough to hold characters in it. So over here under spline, I'm just going to take my spline and make this a little bit larger. So let's see what 75 by 75 looks like. And if that's not large enough, we'll just make it a lot larger. So if I hit H on my keyboard, that's a shortcut to just center everything up. So it looks like this is going to be big enough for us to have characters run around in. If we want to exaggerate it, let's actually make this 100 by 100 by 100, somewhere around there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly extrude this out. So if I look over here in my offset, let me actually, before I do that, I'm just going to create another standard material so we can see what's going on. So there we go. So we can see it a lot better now. So I'm going to take this, I'm just going to extrude this out, and looking at my character right here, this looks like this is a good height. Maybe let's go even 700, somewhere like that. So now we have this 3D binder environment that we can actually bring inside of Unreal. And then if we want to have this textured, what I'm going to do is with my fill selected, once I'm happy with the height and how everything looks in here, I'm just going to click on C, and that's going to make it editable right there. And I'm going to take this fill layer, actually I'm going to take this null, delete that, and that's just going to leave us with our object here, in which we want to make sure our UV textures are set up here as well, because if we want to texture this inside of Unreal Engine, let me look, you might not be able to tell as much because I have like a comic book filter over it to give it like that nice thin line, like cell shading look. But if we get close enough, I'm not sure if you can see it online or on the monitor, we actually have like some stucco on there, and that's just giving it a little bit of texture on there. And so we want to make sure that our UVs are properly set up so that we bring our materials over, everything will look nice and crisp. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to delete all these, and I'm going to delete my UV tag as well. Double click on this. I'm going to make sure that I have that UV texture on there. Let's do this one right here. Left click, drag it into here. I'm going to click on no, bring this back over. And again, you can see our texture looks really messed up in here. So again, if I come over here, come down here to projection, spherical, come down here to cubic. That's usually my go-to. And that usually gets me there on the first try. Like you can see that it's pretty lined up right here. This is looking really nice. We might have some errors right there, which if we have more time, we could go through and paint out. Or if it doesn't look right there, another trick is you can come up to UV edit. And if you come over here to tools, come down here to paint wizard. A lot of times this will get you in a good place as well. You can see how my UV's laid out right there. So it looks pretty good, but if the cubic doesn't work, if you go to paint wizard setup and just have it automatically set up your UV for you, that will usually get you in a good place there as well. But I'm pretty happy with how this one looks right here. So again, I'm going to right click, generate UVW coordinates, and you can see that I actually popped it over. Our UVs are looking nice there. And so we're just going to save this out as an FBX. So I'm going to hit 0 on here. And I'm going to save this out just to my desktop because we're going to start a game from scratch. I think I have a little bit of time that I can show you guys how we could get started there. So again, make sure I have only my selected items in there. We're going to bake our materials, hit OK, save it to my desktop. Just going to save it as floor_plan, something like that. Now with that saved out, I'm actually going to go through and let's exit this out because we're going to start an island from scratch. So let me come over. No, not thank you yet. All right, let me go back, return to lobby inside of Fortnite. But while I'm doing that, I'm going to close some of these down here that I don't need opened up. There we go. We got my character there. But we're going to start over from scratch. And so I'm going to open up Unreal Editor for Fortnite and just show you how you could get a basic island set up there so that you can start creating your own experiences inside of Fortnite. It's hella simple to get started out. So let me double click on this. And while that's starting up, let me actually go to the Epic Games launcher because while that's loading up, I'm going to show you. Oh, is that not launching? All right, so it doesn't look like that's going to be launching right there, but let me go to UEFN inside the search because it's different than Unreal Engine. Like you actually have to go through the store where they actually have all the games and everything. Like you can see, these are all the games that you could get there on Epic. And if you look over here under Unreal, this is where you would actually have your proper Unreal Engine. Now UEFN is different than proper Unreal Engine. Again, this is set up only for doing stuff inside of Fortnite. So you type in UEFN, Unreal Editor for Fortnite. And then you would come down here under your library and you would add it inside of your library. So typically, these are going to download Unreal Engine or Unreal for Fortnite and Fortnite all together. So it's pretty beefy. You're going to need a couple of hours to download it because they work in tandem. I wish I could get this open. It's not opening. Let me actually hit Control-Alt-Delete. Get here in the task manager. Let me see. Let's see, UEFN. No. Dang. Yeah, because that was part of it. I wanted to show you all how we can actually build this out from scratch. But since I have a couple more minutes and it doesn't look like that's going to open up, let's jump in to Fortnite so I can show you all what some other experiences look like once you build your stuff inside of there. So whenever you open up Fortnite, this is going to be your opening scene. And if you come down here, these are all experiences that other people had created inside of the UEFN that I just had showed you and put them up on there on the marketplace for everybody to play. So if you look at the numbers down here, these are actually the number of players that are playing at this particular time. So you have the Lego prop hunt, you have about 500 people in there, For this, whatever this is, you have 30,000. And the way that it works for people like us, like I know, we're dealing with layoffs and strikes like that. You can actually make some side income building these experiences, and they work on retention rate of the characters inside of your game. So the longer people are playing your game, the more money that you generate for yourself. So like I said, the top creator last year made $20 million. I forget what his map was called, but it was just by the player retention rate and building out these maps. Now, every so often, you'll have these big festivals as well, like Lady Gaga has a festival in there right now too. And so you want to kind of correlate it whenever you have these big, massive festivals going on. Like when Eminem was in there, 40 million players. Lady Gaga, I think she had maybe 20 million players. So you want to kind of strategically line it up to make sure that you have the best chance of going through and make sure your map is getting seen. So let me see if I exit this out, if I can actually open back up Unreal. If not, I'll take it to the floor for a couple of questions there. Yeah, it looks like I might have to restart to get this to launch back open. So yeah, I think that's going to do it for right now. Hopefully there's some questions there. But again, my name is Jonathan Winbush, and thank you guys for watching. Yeah. Do you have a mic? There you go.
Doesn't go that far. I got to shout across the room. All right, everyone.
Yeah.
We do have time for questions. So live questions first. Questions?
What's your process like to go from Unreal back to Cinema if you need to make changes on something?
Okay.
Show how to get stuff into Unreal. Is there a back and forth that you can do?
So you want to go with the question? So the question
Yeah,
was going back and forth between Cinema and Unreal if you're making updates on your scene as you go.
Yeah, so let me open up Unreal. Actually, I'll do this one live. It says the Fortnite one stopped working. We'll go into Unreal Engine proper, come over here, and we'll launch this one right here. So are you using the Cineware plugin at all? No? So how are you typically, are you working with Unreal, or you're just asking it?
So just
Just FBX. So the way that I was going to show it, like if you're using the Cineware plugin, that would be your best bet to be able to bring it in. Like if I go to maxon.net, because if you're using FBX, there's really not a back and forth workflow in there. And so if you're using the Cineware plugin, let me come over here. For those that don't know what Cineware is, it's the integration between Cinema 4D and Unreal Engine. So if I come down here, let me click on Learn More. And this is where you would download it. It comes with your Maxon 1, but this is an example that I did. I've been working with Maxon and Epic there for a while, just beta testing this, but you can see that I have my scene here. Like this is built out inside of Cinema, and then we have the same scene inside of Unreal. So like you build it out of Cinema, you would transport it over to Unreal because they have direct link now. Like you just hit one button, it's going to update it inside of Cinema or inside of Unreal. And that way, if you make changes inside of Cinema, like say you move these knights around and stuff like that, then you would hit update on it and it will automatically update inside of Unreal Engine. But that only works if you're using the Cineware plugin. Like if you're doing FBX, then that's like a hard out. It's not connecting the programs together and it's not going to work that way. Yeah, absolutely.
So use the Cineware plugin. The end. Fast enough.
It's not. Yeah, it's not long. I was going to give a live demo of it, but it's not launching.
Yeah, the back and forth. Otherwise, you're just stuck with exporting, re-exporting, re-exporting.
Yeah, going back and forth.
I mean, that was I know that was something that was requested a lot from users too. So that's a good one. Topher, you had a question, and then we'll come back.
So, on scanning yourself in, do you use a specific process, or do you use like polycam just to do like a face, or do you go into metahuman, or you have to like?
So the question is bringing yourself in. What was your process around that?
So I'm actually using a hardware scanner. Let me see if I could go through.
Shout out to the Jonathan Winbush channel.
Yeah, give myself here a view from live from the show floor here. Let me come through, and so I'm using a hardware scanner there. It's by Creality, and so let me come through and see if I actually show myself scanning. So there we go. So you can see I'm looking half crazy there, but yeah, I just go through and I put it up there on a tripod, eyes wide open, so that we're getting everything there. And I'm just scanning myself there with the scanner. And then from there, I actually bring it back into Cinema 4D, just to tighten it up and everything. Your axes is going to be off, and so you want to make sure everything is nice and proper. And then from there, I take it from Cinema 4D, and I bring it into Character Creator. And so I know a lot of people like metahumans and stuff like that, but I find Character Creator to be a lot more intuitive when you're using characters and things of that nature. So they actually have a plugin inside of Character Creator called Headshot, in which I could take my 3D scan of my head, drop it in there, and it's going to morph it to the body. And then from there, I bring it into Unreal Engine. So that's a much simpler workflow. And then same thing with the motion capture, just have the head rig on, and then I'm able to do it there inside of Character Creator. So yeah, from the scanner, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, cinema or scanning, then the cinema, then the Character Creator.
Very cool. Was there another question? Yeah. So the character animation, yeah, where's that coming from?
So the character animation, I guess we'll go back to the tutorial here. And so I'm actually doing the animations myself. So as you can see up here in the top right-hand corner, this is actually my face being motion captured there with the Rococo head rig. I'm just using an iPhone. And then once I have all my motion capture there, this is actually inside of iClone. And I'm bringing the motion capture data in the iClone, attaching it to the character, and then from there, I'm exporting out an FBX with that animation baked in, and then I bring that into UEFN. So that's actually built in. So whenever you have the enemies and stuff in there, you can actually use their AI. And you can actually go through and modify it, like if you want them to be really intelligent or kind of just dumb, or if you want them to be really hard. But you can do all that within UEFN. That's all built in there. But if you're doing custom characters like this, like talking and moving, like that's all you would animate this way.
Awesome. Jonathan will be in the back for another hour, so if you do have more questions, you'll be able to talk with him there and go through his different workflows. Got a special shout out? What do you got?
Well, before I do the selfie, I was going to say I do got what up shirts for anybody that wants them. I have them there in the back. I'm going to be at the Maxon demo booth there for the next hour, so come back, see me if you want a t-shirt. And then, of course, we got to do the...
And then we'll have a selfie as well. So
we got to do the selfie now.
You guys will hang out for a selfie, right?
Yeah, okay. Can I do a selfie with everybody here? All right.
Awesome.
Let's get it set up.
Internet, we'll have to catch you at the next one.
Yeah, we'll get you next time.
Yeah, we'll get you next time. But we'll be back here in about 10 minutes with our next presenter, EJ Hassenfrat. So stay tuned. Everybody else, get ready for the selfie.